If you say yes, I can start. So I'm okay with that. All right. So we are in part B. So this is how we're going to do it. The part B, last week we covered scripting and some, using the SQL Studio to manage and to also use scripts to create what we manage with SQL Management Studio. So today, the part B is going to be mainly administration. So the first question in part B says, demonstrate how to use SQL Server and SQL Server agent and connection timeout problem and all features. So this one is all about watching the video, how I'm going to do it. So what is SQL Server? How to use SQL Server. So SQL Server is what is in your services. Remember, sometimes when we try to troubleshoot our SQL Server, maybe probably our management studio, I would say go to services, and there are different ways to go to services in your PC. Number one, if you go to your search menu, so if I do this now, let me hold on. If I go to if you click on your Windows and type services.msc, then you will see your services. You will click services, and then it's going to come up. Let me just drag it here. You'll be able to see services. So these are your services. I'll just do this. So these are different ways to troubleshoot. So the first thing, anything go wrong with your SQL Management Studio, you are not able to connect, first go to your SQL Server here. So you will see we have SQL Server agent here. We have SQL Server here. So these two are critical for your Management Studio to work. Okay. Sometimes it stops. If it stops, you just right click it and click start. Because it's already started now, I don't need to stop it. Sometimes it can even be on starting, you just need to restart it. So you click restart. So when you restart it, it's going to work. All right. Now, and this one as well, you can stop it and restart it as well. So sometimes something might go wrong and then you just want to restart it. Probably something is not really working, even though it's showing start automatic. Sometimes it's good to restart it and then everything will come back to normal. So that is the way to work with SQL Server and SQL Server Management. Another way of going to services, if you want to go to the same place, maybe probably you don't know how to get there, you can go to control panel. So if you go to control panel, and then you go to if you go to control panel, and then you go to let me see which one is better for us. You can click on administration. Let's go to system and security, and then under system and security, I don't know what Windows you are using, but the best thing is to type, because I'm using Windows 7. So if I click administrative tools, I'll see services here as well. That's another way to go to the same place I'm going to. That is the best way. Search for it, services.msc, and then you'll be fine. All right. So you could see when I click services, it comes here. And then you can do. It's not only SQL alone. There are some things that might be wrong with your PC. So you can, that's the purpose of services. For example, some people, their internet is not working. Probably the reason is because probably their computer browser stopped, or some it might be their other things that are very common for Internet Explorer here. Like for example, some might be server, some might be an IP address. So it depends. But this is how to troubleshoot any application you have. Most applications will always have their engine running in services here where you can work with it as well, and then stop it and start it again. These are good ways to troubleshoot SQL Server. Okay, and another thing to know is that if you are in SQL Studio, if you go here, did you see this SQL Server agent is disabled? Normally it shouldn't be. You can right click it and say restart, and then it will restart itself. Sometimes it might call it disabled because, so it's asking me a question, do you want to? I say yes. This is another way, but the best way is to go to services and restart the server. Don't try to do it here because this one can be deceptive sometimes, this SQL Server agent here. So you have to go to services and do everything, both SQL Server and SQL Server agents. These are the two you need to restart your. So that's number one, to deal with problems in SQL Server. Another thing to note is that sometimes there may be connection timeout error. There are two ways to do that in SQL. All right. So sometimes you want to connect. Maybe let me give you an example. Let me disconnect here now. So if I right click and disconnect, I want to connect. Maybe I can connect. Now, if you want to, sometimes it will say timeout error. What you can do is that if you click options, so for example, suppose I put my timeout to be 1 second. Let me see if it's going to work. I just want to give you an example. I put 1 there and I want to connect. Let me see. Connect. So it's faster because my PC is faster. But normally there might be timeout error because my PC is faster. Some PC, maybe it has its server connection somewhere else to connect. So if you put 1 second there, it's not ideal. So what you need to do is that you change it. You check you go there, you go to connect here. If it's giving error, probably you are not able to connect because I'm able to connect, but you want to connect and it's saying this is the error you're having. The first thing you do is go to options, change the seconds. Some might change it to 1,000. Some might change it to 0. 0 means unlimited timeout. So I tend to put like 20,000. It's not good to put unlimited timeout, but for some purpose you can put 0, 0. It doesn't matter as well. Anyway, so if you put it there, it's good. All right. So execution timer can be 5. It depends on how the more you get used to SQL, the more you know what to do, and so on and so forth. I can put connection timeout to be 0. So it depends, and so on and so forth. And then you click connect. So mine is not having any problem, but in case you are having problem, that's what you need to do with your timeout. You go to that same connect because already I'm able to connect. So in that connection, you go to, because you are not able to connect, you go to options and then put 0, 0. Another thing to do is that if you're having timeout problem as well, if you are probably here, probably is disconnected, you can still go to tools, go to options, search for timeout there. That's another way to do that. But so go to, which one should we go to? Query execution. It might be query execution problem. Sometimes we have query execution problem as well. So this is execution problem. Sometimes you are running a script and then it's not responding, or you are finding it's very slow, or it's giving error quickly. Probably it might be timeout problem as well. All right. But the one that is common most is the connection timeout. Okay. So I'll just cancel this for now. So that's the case for that one. So let me read the question again. Now, this is the second question. All right. Another question is demonstrate how to use SQL Server and connection timer problem and all features in SQL. That's what I mean. So it means all features in SQL. Now, suppose I connect now. You have to familiarize yourself with how to use SQL Management Studio. So for example, I've connected to this server. All right. It's called Lenovo PC. In some organization, you have different server that is using SQL. But because I only have one PC, but you know your particular PC you want to use, so I select it. Okay, suppose let me do this thing. Let me just do this funny thing. I connect again. So it's connected. Let me see which one I can connect to. If I have another PC, I don't have another PC here. Suppose I have another PC that I can connect to, but I don't have. Okay. Now, suppose I have a list of servers here. Okay. I have like 4 of these different PC. You normally go to right click it and go to properties of that server. And then when you go to the properties of that server, you will normally see this what we call memory. Now, I explained to us in the beginning, there are sometimes, because I've changed this one, if you are using your SQL Server now, you will find out that your SQL Server is using a lot of memory. And sometimes it's not good. Suppose your SQL and your server is using so many resources and you have not allocated your memory to your SQL Server, then it might be affecting other applications. So the best thing is to allocate memory for your SQL Server. Okay. So but it's just for you to get familiarized. You can leave it the way it is. The default setting is that it is 214.0.0.0.0.0. But for me, when I was working then, based on my experience, is that because there are 2 applications the application is using SQL Server as a backend. But because it's using SQL Server as a backend, the SQL server itself, which is replication I set up then, is using a lot of the resources of the PC. But the application itself wants to use the resources as well. So you have to share the resources. So for me, I'm using 4 gig memory. So for me to make sure that my other application runs well, probably maybe I'm running Microsoft Word, I'm running other applications that use a lot of resources, I can just say 2 megabytes is enough for my memory. Gigabytes is enough for my memory, which is this one now. So, which is 2147. And that's the allocation of memory. You don't need to do anything. This is where you need to just do it. The minimum is 0, the maximum is 2147. So that all the application can run, successfully. Other thing to look at is security. I told us about this before. I said there's what we call Windows Authentication Mode and SQL Server Authentication Mode. What is Windows Authentication Mode? Windows Authentication Mode simply means that anytime you log in, you click connect, you are using your own Windows user account. Probably if you are logging with Michael or something, then that Michael is going to automatically log in. That's why it's called Windows Authentication. But if you select SQL and Windows Authentication Mode, this is what will happen. So suppose I disconnect now. I'll select SQL Server Authentication. Maybe previously it was Windows Authentication, which is Lenovo, which I don't need to sign. I will select this and I will, put my password there. I think there's one I created before, unlimited, and then unlimited. So it's going to sign me in, all right, because that is the account I have. It's an SQL Server Authentication Mode. If you remember one of our lessons, I told us how to create our user account for SQL Server, all right, in which I'm still going to ask in these questions to create an account, for SQL Server. So if you want to create an account like this, you normally go to security, you right click on logins, you say new login, because already I've set my properties to SQL Server and Windows Authentication Mode. So now for me, I want to create one. I would say example, and I will give it a password, example. Remember, I've chosen SQL Server Authentication here. My password is example. Now, look at what's happening here. It says enforce password policy, enforce password expiration. Now, if you do this, then most people that do this are people that are they are administrator of an SQL Server databases. So they want to enforce password expiration so that anytime they log in after 90 days, they have to change their password. Or anytime the person log in for the first time, the person has to change their password because I'm the one that set the password. I should not have right to your password. So immediately you log in with this username, you have to change the password. It must enforce it. So for me, because for example purpose, I won't do all these things for now. Okay, I'll just untick it. I will now go to server roles. Now, I told us initially on the purpose of this. I said, if you say public simply means that the person cannot do a lot. The person cannot even do anything unless you give the person a permission on a database itself. So what you can do is that you can say the person is public. If you say someone is public here, it means that it won't have access to any server anyhow. So let's try this. Public, okay? I've called it example. Did you see it? Public. Now, user mapping. I give the person public. I said the person can only have access to HR. Example, username can only have access to HR. I didn't give him any access here. Did you see? I have so many databases. Only HR, I said, example, should have access to. And I said it can be anything there. It can be, I don't want him to be a DB owner. Remember in one of our lessons, I said DB owner is someone that has full rights over everything on a PC. So I don't want him to be a DB owner. I just want him to be a data reader and data writer. All right. So I'll click OK now. Now I've created it. Okay. I call it example. Now, if I go back now and disconnect, because unlimited I'm using is an account that is very, very superior. So if I go to connect and I say SQL Server and I put example, I click connect. Now I connect, isn't it? Now if I go to the databases now, I want to access link. The database link up is not accessible because I didn't give it anything to do, isn't it? Now, if I now go to Chinook as well, it won't. But if I go to HR, what happened? It gives me access to HR. Do you see what's happening now? So now if I right click on HR and I do new query, in which I told us last week, there are 3 ways to query. Is that how you right click it and say new query, or you write a script and say use HR. That is, I want to query HR. Now, I am doing this now. I right click it, I said new query. Now, if I now said, now remember I said data writer and data reader. So if I said, how many tables is there now? Suppose I say drop book. I will say drop table book. So let me say drop table book. Let me see what's going to happen. Cannot drop the table because it does not exist or do not have permission. So I do not have permission. Okay, that's what is happening. Did you see what's happening now? I do not have permission because I gave it data reader and data writer. I can see what is there. I can say select from book. I can read it. There's not a problem. But when I try to alter anything from database, it will not allow me because I have given permission to example not to do anything apart from reading it and writing to it. All right. So I cannot drop it. I cannot delete anything from it. So I cannot do anything. Okay. So let me try delete, probably because I'm delete from. Hello. You want to ask a question?
You can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I always have problem with this.
Okay. But do you get what I'm trying to say now? Do you understand part of it?
Yeah. I understand what you're trying to say. Yes.
Okay. So that's the part for that one. So if I say delete from book now, let me see what's going to happen. Delete from book, it will not as well. Okay, because it won't even allow me anyway because I'm not allowed to because of the permission. All right. So that is the reason why SQL Server, though I go beyond the question, but I'm trying to show us and to remind us how to do that again. To understand the powerful use of SQL Server Authentication, that you can really assign different users if you're an administrator. on a database and so on and so forth. So that's the question for that. So we'll still go back to properties because we haven't finished yet. We finished security here, SQL Server this, and then we go to connections. This is where you want to say maximum number of concurrent connections. If you say I want only 2 people to connect to this SQL server, maybe you are in your company, different people have access to that server, but different people can connect to that SQL at the same time. Probably one is using another database, you are using another database. They can still connect to that server itself. So that's the purpose of this. So I can say I can only allow multiple people. So if you say 0 means unlimited. So anytime you see 0 in SQL, it means unlimited. Unlimited connections, unlimited timeout, unlimited this and this. So that is what it means. So that's for connections. Then database settings. Now, what's the purpose of database settings? In one of our lessons, we talk about backup. I said when we're doing backup, it gave us an option. Do you want to, when you want to backup, do you want to compress the backup? Now, the reason why it's asking that question is because we have enabled this setting here, compress backup in the settings. So it's always good to, so that to maximize space of your PC, it's always good to compress backup. So that's the purpose, compress backup and so on and so forth. That's the purpose of that one. So advanced. So we don't need to go into this one now. Permissions. We don't need to go into this. You don't need all these things for now. Everything that I've mentioned, I've covered it about, creating a different user and so on and so forth. So that answered that questions. That's number 1 now. And then number 2, troubleshooting skills in administration tools and scripting. Demonstrate 3 different ways to query a database in SQL Management Studio. So 3 ways. I will say it again now. So I will disconnect again. Sorry. I will disconnect and I will connect with a proper user account. Let's say, hope I remember my password. Okay, I got it. So now, there are 3 ways I told us last week. The first way to do that is that if you want to query a database, you right-click any of the database you want to query. For example, I want to query movies. I right-click it and say new query.
Yeah.
Another way to do that is, suppose I want to, yeah, you want to say something? Yeah, good.
No. I was just saying, trying to.
Yeah. Okay. Then another thing that you can do is that if you change your mind that I don't want to query movies again, I want to query probably HR. You can go here. That's another way. You can select HR, and then it will change to HR here. That your link is now to HR. Do you see it now? So if I said, oh no, I want to query sample, then it will change to sample. Okay. Now, the third way to do it, to query, is to say use. I will not say use. I'll put a bracket there. I'll say use HR. It means that I'm now connected to HR. And now I will now say select from book. And then it's going to bring it out. Even though, if you look at it now, it has changed because I say use HR. Immediately change everything here. Okay. Now, if I say use Chinook, let's look for the table that is there. I don't know what table is there. So let's say artist. Now, let's execute it. See what happened. It changed everything. Chinook, yeah. So that's it. So these are the 3 ways to query in database. Is that okay? Okay. Right. So that is the way to do that. Now, how to view? I was asking another question. How to view all the connections in SQL Server? Now, the solution is here because I'm doing a solution for people. How to view all connections. Sometimes you have a situation, it's mainly for administrator, but you don't know. Sometimes you start getting used to SQL Server, if you are using it at work daily, the more you practice it, the more you become an expert, trust me. And it says using this script. So you are going to use this script to know what is the connection that is in your PC. So the first thing you need to do is that you say select from, did you see this one? sys.dm.exec section is an internal command in SQL. It's like a stored procedure. It's a system command. So if I do this now, look at what is going to happen. It's going to give me everything inside, okay? Inside my DBA, everything, the session ID, the login name, the host name, and everything, the date that has happened. So because I just log into that, I just switch off and switch on. Suppose this SQL Server is on since last week, it's going to give you everything, every details before. So these are the things that are running at the moment. Now, there's another command you can use, this short one. So I can say this one. Look at what will happen. So if I put semicolon here, semicolon simply means run the other one, run the other one, and run it. Oh, sorry. So if I say exec, you see what happened now? Let me close this one. Hold on. Do you know how to comment out? I told us, isn't it? You use this. This is how to comment, yeah? Now, this is another one. This one is very useful. Execute sp_who. Now, if you want to now remove one of these things, you can now remove it because you might find out that you have so many SPID that is pending. Probably you want to do something. It says something is pending. You can delete it and so on and so forth. But I don't want to go into details of this, but this is one way of doing what we call SQL tuning and so on and so forth. These are the things to do if certain things is going wrong with your SQL and so on and so forth. It's more about knowing the connections and so on and so forth. So do you know the other way to comment? I use these two lines now. What are the other ways to do comment on a code? I know we understand how to comment, what is the meaning of comment, but if I want to comment this thing, I don't want to use that dash. What can I do? So what you can do is you put this here, you put backspace star, and then you end everything backspace star and then /. That's it. So you might have many lines. So instead of putting dash, you can just put this one there and then this one. So it's going to comment out everything. So suppose I have FFF. I can't be putting dash over everything. So I can just say, okay, comment out this. I'll just put Control X here and Control V. So it means that it has commented out this, okay? So that's it. So that's the purpose of two ways to comment. One line comment, or so that's a good way of doing that as well. So I think we covered that one now. Now, if you want to know, now remember that we talk about this sp_who now. So let me change this to, or use exec. It should be execute. Don't mind me. So now, if I want to find my current execution, I'll just say select at SPID. So at SPID. So if I go back to this and I want to know my own, let's look at what is happening now. Select. Mine is 57. That is it. So where I am now is 57. So if I want to kill a process, how will I kill the process? I will now say, suppose okay, let's look at this one. I want to kill a process. It means that I don't want that process to run again. Something is wrong somewhere. It's hanging. Let me kill 7. So I'll just say kill 7. Outbox. Oh, only user process can be killed. Hold on. 50s. Let me see. Only user process SPID. Anyway, but this is how to do that. It won't allow me. Don't worry. Because I'm the only one using this PC. It's much more. You see, you cannot use keto because you won't do that, because unless you have so many people using your this thing and you have 3 people using this particular system at the same time, but you want to kill that particular person process because the person is not even online, but his work is disturbing. You can kill the process and so on and so forth. Okay, so it won't work at the moment, but these are the ways to troubleshoot in your SQL. All right. Now, I put this here just to resolve. The answer is here. We can read it. How to connect and how to solve connectivity issue. We can read it. It's more of a advanced troubleshooting one. So I put the link here. It's in Microsoft. If you're having problem connecting and so on and so forth. Then question D. I said, what is the difference between views and stored procedure? So I will explain what is view to us again. And I will explain what is stored procedure to us again. And we're going to look at the difference. What is different between views and stored procedure? So let's look at it together now. All right. Now, what is view? Now, remember that I said use, let's say Chinook, yeah? I said use Chinook. And I said select from, select from artist. Now, this is it. Now, this is my live database. However, I want an external contractor to work with me to do certain things, probably to do data migration. And I said, okay, what can I do? I don't want him to have full access to my database. What can I do? I can just say, I want to create a view. So the person will have access to this view I've created so that anything, because people are using database every day, but I just want to create a view for that particular thing. So what I will do is, for now, I want to migrate my data, everything that is there now, but I don't want to disturb my production database. What I'm going to do now is that I'm going to say create view as migration artist. I'm just giving an example now. So I've called it create view as migration artist. Okay. So this is it now. So this is what will happen. Let me see.
Hello, Michael.
Yes, you want to ask question?
Yeah, you know, it's just me and you on this meeting, you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm at work, so at times I just move away and then come back again.
Yeah, it's okay.
Since it's recorded, so other people can.
Yeah, I know. Okay. That's why I'm doing that. Yeah.
Okay, cheers.
All right, cheers. So we create this and then we execute it. Oh, it's executed successfully. I think I've done that already. So hold on. Create view as cut, paste. Create view must be the first thing in your query bash. So why is it doing that? I'm not sure if I've created. Did I run execute before?
You just run it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if I've run it before. Let me check. So if you want to know you have run it before, I'll just go here. I'll select refresh. And then you go to views. No, it's not there. So this system views. So I want to know, create view as, let me see why. So it's actually, create view. Did I spell? Oh, create. Am I? Did I spell create well? Oh.
Yes, it's correct. No, it's correct. TE. Create. TE, yes.
Sometimes you can get confused, isn't it?
Yeah. So well, if you don't put the E, it's not going to come up in blue anyway. So that means it's wrong.
Select. So create view. So we're done. Let me use HR. I don't know why it's doing that. I don't like sometimes things go wrong. Create view because I need to give this example so that we understand. Someone to do data migration. I want to make it as simple as possible. In the procedure, okay. Wow. Create view as I thought so. I want to check something. Incoincident. Create view. Okay, let me go back to the because I want to be sure. I don't want to assume. Why is doing that? I don't want to assume. So go to W3 schools rather than create. I can just say create view. Why is it not allowing create view? I'm surprised. Yeah, create view. View name as. Oh, as. So that's okay. So I'm supposed to put as here.
Okay.
So now it's done successfully. So now what happened now is, guess what happened? What is happening now is I've created a view. That means that if you are my external contractor now, you only have access to this view. I'll only give you access to this view. Remember when we're talking about, so when I refresh it now, so I can say, oh, you are my contractor now. What happens is that I'll only give you access to my view. Okay. Oh, sorry, HR, because I created in HR. So you only have access to this view called what? Example. DB example.
Yeah,
So
example, yeah.
So I'll say, oh, my contractor will be using a distance. So I'll go to security. For me, I'll just go to security. I'll say, I'll go to, or I'll go to this example. I'll just right click it. I'll say properties, or go here. What can I do? Properties, permissions. I can do this here, but I'm not sure if it's going to allow me. It's not allowing me. So let me say example, if it's going to do that, or else I'm going to check names. So example, times example, we have access to this thing. Example can create anything. You know, I can say example can just with grants, you know, but I'm going more advanced now, alter, or I just want him to just select alone. That's enough to just do something for me. So the person will have access to it as well. Or I can go to security, yeah, and then I'll go to the logins that example has before. I'll say, okay, part of his mapping, I'll go there. We'll have access user mapping. What are the examples you will have now? So HR, and then what else? So you already have HR, access to HR. So I don't want him to have access to HR.
Example lessons of view. What do we have?
No, there's no view
Example
here.
lessons. Yeah.
No, there's no view here. So it's only that place I can grant. So, but you can have access to view. So what happened with view is that even if he doesn't have access, I can say, I will give him the name of the view. So I'll say the name of the view is example, query the database HR. So anytime, so for example, now, if I refresh it, look at what will happen now. Oh, no, sorry. Now I've given access, so I have to disconnect, okay? I'll disconnect. I'll go to this one. I'll go back and say, okay, example. I will now log in as example. So this is the contractor that want to work with Vue. He can't have access to my live database for everything. He just needs to work with Vue. So if I go back to the database and try to access HR, but I won't. But if I say select from, if I now say select, okay, if I now say select Vue example, it should work. I select from example, it should work. So that's it now. All right. So this is what will happen. Okay. Did you see what happened now?
Yeah.
So that's the one he can work with now. So he won't be able to have access to other things in the table. You see, he doesn't even have access here. He won't have access at all. But he have access to Vue because I've given him what access to Vue already. Okay. I say just queries Vue. You can't query my live database. So that's the purpose of
But is this Vue now? Because this is an example.
Yeah, this is Vue. The Vue we created the last time. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but it doesn't have access to the full database. So, that's what I would say. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So that is it for views. Now, what about stored procedure? Stored procedure is, so I wrote it here. I say a view represents a virtual table. So this is what I got from Stack Overflow explanation. Someone was asking, just want to clarify. I've explained with view. Now, I'll now go to stored procedure. I'll give an example as well. You say you can join multiple tables in a view. That is, this table, this example, I can have one like example. I can create another view. Maybe it's called artists, and then join them if they have common, common ID and so on and so forth. So that's what it's trying to say there. So you can say select start from view, inner join, this, but you are using view to view your table because you are not using the main production and database. Is that you can join multiple tables in a view and use the view to present the data as if the data were coming from a single table. A stored procedure uses parameters to do a function, whether it is updating an instantiated data or returning single values or data sets. Now, creating views and stored procedure has some information from Microsoft as to when, as to how to use it each. So this is an example. TBI user columns, user ID, username, user password. They were giving a practical. This is another one. TB profile columns. This is another one now. Now, this is table profile. This is table user. This is the column. Okay. So if I find myself querying from those tables a lot, instead of doing the join in every piece of SQL, I would define a view like create a view. But this one is kind of a simple example. Has, then I select this from this. So in the future, if I want to query profile description by user ID, all I have to do is select profile description, all right, from this, where user ID is this, okay? So it's the same thing as what I did, create a view. But for stored procedure, you have to create procedure, but you will define a parameter. Now, the parameter means that you have to enter a value before you can query it. In this case, I don't need to enter a parameter. So in writing a parameter, you have to say at ID means a variable here, integer. So that when you execute it, it's going to ask you what number, okay? Or you execute it with the number you are requesting, okay? So that's stored procedure. That's the difference. But it's very tricky for me to explain how stored procedure works, okay? Maybe as we go on with the project, probably we'll use it a lot as well. So we'll use it for one project anyway, because I've set the questions on that. And I'm not the one that set it anyway. I gave it to another person to set the project. So because we are trying to understand the basic first before we go to the project and so on. That's why I'm putting this together. And you can always go back to the video and go back and watch it as well. So they gave a difference. Stored procedure accept parameter. A view does not accept parameter. Stored procedure cannot be used as building block in a larger query, which is true. But we can use the view, which I told you, the view, you could see the view can use inner join here. It's building blocks of of things to do whatever you want. Some procedures can contain several statements, loops, if else. It doesn't have it. View doesn't have if. You can't use if there. All right, in view. You cannot perform modification to any table. For security purpose, as I said, you cannot perform modification, but you can perform modification with stored procedures. All right. So stored procedure is more of advanced later on when you start using it. Stored procedure is what we have. When we try to query, when we try to use execute sp_who to know the connections, they are stored procedure. You see that sp. When we do this the last time, we say sp_who. Did you see the sp? Sp simply means stored procedure. Sp, okay? That's what Microsoft has created, okay? And you will see that it can accept parameter later on. So if I say execute sp_who, where I can change things, but I can't change the one that Microsoft has made. But when you create a procedure, you can easily change what is in your table and so on and so forth, okay? But for view, you can't do that. You can't put parameters there and so on and so forth, all right? So don't worry about stored procedure, but view can be understandable because it's all about security. It's all about creating a virtual table, not letting people to have full access to your production database, and not letting people to, for security purpose and so on. It's good to create views and so on and so forth, and to allow simplification as well. It's good to use view and so on and so forth. And one of the things people that do data migration do is also, people that are developer or business analysts that are trying to migrate data, they want to create view, especially if they want to protect science. It's a production database. They are still using it, but they still want to be migrating data first and so on and so forth. So that's it. Now, this is another question. I said, what is LDF and MDF? LDF stand for log database file. Why MDF stand for master database file? Last week, I told us that when you create database, I said we have a logical name here. So if I say this, Ade, I have Ade here. You see this Ade here? It is the main file, MDF, okay? So if I go up, let's see what we can do. Let me expand this. It's normally stored here, okay? It's called what? It's called MDF. You see the one that has underscore log is called LDF file. What is the purpose? The purpose is that the log file always stores the information. Anytime you make a change, you see what I'm doing now, select this, I back up, I delete something, you can find the info in LDF. It's not the main file. And but the MDF is the main file. It's called master database file. Now, the two always come together. It's always good. Anytime probably you only have the MDF and the LDF file. We have done this last week, but just to say it again, MDF and LDF can be attached. You don't restore MDF and LDF. You only attach them, okay? Because they are the main file. Sometimes MDF mostly work even if you don't use LDF, all right? But it's always good to have your MDF and LDF to attach them, okay? Now, last week we talked about shrinking. I said it's a good practice. I said before you shrink, just to recapitulate, I said you go to that database you want to shrink, right click. For example, I want to shrink this sample. I say you go to properties. Oh, I'm still using that. So I'll disconnect again. Sorry. I have to connect with unlimited stuff now. So sample, I right click it and I said properties. I'll first change it to simple. Now, I said last week that it's full already. I changed it to simple. You have to change it to simple before you shrink it. And I click OK first. Now, and I want to shrink it. Now, LDF and MDF can be shrinked, but as a good developer, it's only okay. Let me give you an example. You always store database, but sometimes you purge your database. Probably there's a company develop a software for your company, and the company, the the software can store a lot of information as much as possible up to 2 years. But for you, you don't want the 2 years because it's causing your database to be large. So the company say, okay, they are going to give you a kind of a script you'll be running that will be purging your database to the last 7 months. So that last 7 months is your database now. You want to keep it. They have already given it to you. So that's your MDF file. Your MDF file is already there. However, even though you have been given a script to reduce the size of the database, your LDF will not be reduced. It's going to keep increasing. It's the one that keep increasing and increasing. So I always recommend to people that if you want to shrink database, you can shrink it, but you can always right click and go to properties and then shrink. Oh, sorry. You go to right click, task, and then you go to shrink, and then database, and then you shrink. But I don't recommend this. I say you should shrink files. So you go to task, shrink, and then you click files, and then you go and select log. That's the main thing. So when I select it, I can reduce it again. I want to reduce it to certain size and so on and so forth. So that's how to do that. Okay, and after you have finished, you go back to this, you go back to options, and then select full recovery model. It's always good to go back and select it back if you have it already. So that's the question for that. So that's master MDF. This is already there, so you can read it later on as solution. So I think that's it. I will stop soon. Let me just look through. So look through any date column. So this one might require a lot of time. So we want to look through date column in adventure work. So we have to know how to use dates a little bit, just the basics of it and so on and so forth. But that will be next week and so on. Then this one is critical. We have already done this, so I won't touch it again. Changing SQL mode to Windows mode. If you remember, we go to SQL Server here, properties. So I won't cover that on next week anyway. And then you go to security. We have already changed it. You can always change it. Okay. So that's the question. That's the answer for that one. So, but next week we're going to cover this one. We're going to cover this one. Well, we have already covered this one. Demonstrate how to work through SQL properties, which we have done today. You know, when I was explaining all these things, understanding them, security connections 000. And then we're going to do this next week, 8. We're going to do this, even though I did something a little bit today, but we are still going to do this next week. We have done this, so I've taken note of that one. We will do 4 and 5 next week. We will do this one, very critical, next week, replication. We'll do this one next week as well, automate as well. And after that, we are now going to challenge. This one is the one that is more of a project for us. We'll start writing it, and then we'll understand it. So it's a question. So don't worry about all these things you are saying. You will understand. It's just insert to songs. It's still the same thing. It's one line, but you are now repeating the same thing, different name and everything. So, but we are going to answer questions around it. More of a project for us to do, and so on and so forth. So, but the one of next week is important for replication and automating backup, and so on and so forth. So, if you have any question, Mr. Deleke, let me know if any question you want to ask.
No question.
Have you tried to use Power BI? Let me ask you.
No, I haven't. No.
Did you see the video I sent? Did you try to?
Yeah, I saw the video. I'm gonna watch them tomorrow. I've been working, so.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so
it's okay.
yeah.
It's okay.